Most men believe marriage is the ultimate expression of love. They think it's about romance, unity, building a family, and creating a lifelong partnership. That's the fantasy. That's the story we've all been told. But here's the brutal truth. Marriage is not just about love. It's about leverage. And if you don't understand that, you're walking blind into the most powerful contract of your life. Think about it. When a man falls in love, he sees the connection, the warmth, the passion. He believes those feelings are enough to carry a relationship forever. But when he signs the papers, when he says, "I do," he doesn't just commit to a woman emotionally. He commits legally, financially, socially, spiritually. Every institution, law, culture, religion stands behind that contract. And that contract doesn't run on love, it runs on obligation. This is why so many men wake up years later asking themselves, "What happened? I thought this was about love. Why do I feel trapped?" It's because the psychological and social reality of marriage is not what they thought it was. Love may start the journey, but once the contract is signed, leverage takes over, and leverage is not romantic. Marriage shifts the balance of power. It changes the way intimacy, resources, and even freedom are negotiated. What once felt like passion now feels like duty. What once felt like choice now feels like law. And if you don't see it for what it is, you can spend decades chained to expectations you never agreed to consciously. Here's the part no one wants to admit. Marriage has always been a survival strategy. For women, historically, it was protection, resources, security. For men, it was access to sex, children, and social legitimacy. That was the ancient bargain. But in the modern world, the stakes are different. The legal system, cultural norms, and social pressures all lean one way. And if you don't see that, you'll enter the game already defeated. So let me be clear, this isn't about hating marriage. This isn't about blaming women. This is about seeing the hidden psychology. This is about exposing the code beneath the ceremony, the mechanics behind the vows. Because marriage is not just two people in love. It's a contract backed by centuries of evolution, law, and cultural programming. And that contract doesn't care about how you feel. The truth is this: if you think marriage is only about love, you are naive. If you believe it's just about happiness, you're already vulnerable. And if you walk into it blind, it won't just cost you affection. It can cost you your resources, your time, your freedom, even your identity. That's the dark side of marriage. And that's what we're going to expose today. To understand the dark side of marriage, you have to strip away the fairy tale and look at the psychology behind it. Because marriage, at its core, is not just about two people choosing each other. It's about systems of survival, power, and control that have been wired into human beings for thousands of years. In evolutionary psychology, marriage is not defined by romance. It's defined by resource allocation and reproductive security. Thousands of years ago, a woman's survival and the survival of her children depended on her ability to secure a man who could provide food, protection, and stability. For men, the incentive was different, ensuring paternity, gaining access to intimacy, and securing status within the tribe. From the very beginning, marriage was not primarily about passion, it was about strategy. Fast forward to today, and the psychology hasn't disappeared. The world is different. Women can earn money, men don't need to fight off predators, and survival is no longer about hunting and gathering. But the subconscious programs are still there. Women still seek security, men still seek validation and legacy. The problem is, the contract of marriage is still built on those ancient instincts, while society has changed around them. Here's where the leverage comes in. Marriage turns natural desires into binding obligations. Love may be the spark, but marriage transforms that spark into duty. The vow is not just "I love you," it's "I will provide, I will stay, I will sacrifice, no matter what." The ceremony disguises this reality with flowers and music, but underneath, it's an agreement that changes the psychological playing field forever. Psychologists call this commitment escalation, the moment when a relationship crosses from voluntary into contractual. Before marriage, affection flows because of choice. After marriage, much of it flows because of obligation. And obligation changes the dynamics of attraction. What was once spontaneous becomes expected. What was once free becomes enforced. And men often don't notice this shift until years later, when they realize they are no longer operating in the world of love, but in the world of leverage. Sociologists add another layer. Marriage is not just a private bond, it's a public declaration. Families, communities, religions, and legal systems all reinforce it. This means a man is not just accountable to his wife, he's accountable to society itself. That accountability creates pressure, and pressure creates leverage. Suddenly, disagreements are not just between two people. They are between you, her, the law, the culture, and every expectation piled onto the word husband. And here's the twist. Many women aren't even fully aware of this psychology. They don't wake up saying, "I will trap a man with leverage." It's deeper than that. It's unconscious. It's survival instinct dressed in white lace. When intimacy fades, when attraction cools, the structure of marriage ensures that the bond doesn't break, because the contract keeps it in place. Love may leave, but the leverage remains. This is why so many men feel blindsided. They think marriage is a celebration of love, but in reality, it's a shift into a different kind of relationship, one where the rules are written not by passion, but by psychology and power. If you fail to see this, you'll misinterpret every signal. You'll confuse obligation for affection, dependence for devotion, and leverage for love. So when we talk about the dark side of marriage, we are not talking about individual relationships. We are talking about the psychological architecture beneath the institution itself. It's not personal, it's structural, it's evolutionary. And until you see it clearly, you will never understand why so many men walk into marriage full of hope and walk out years later broken, confused, and stripped of everything they once thought was theirs. When men step into marriage, they often believe they are stepping into a permanent state of love. But beneath the vows and the ceremony, there are hidden mechanisms at play, mechanisms that shift the balance of power and turn affection into obligation. These are the 5 psychological levers of marriage. Ignore them, and you'll be controlled by them. See them clearly, and you'll understand why marriage is not just love. It's leverage. 1. Commitment as control. The first mechanism is the transformation of love into duty. Before marriage, affection is voluntary. After marriage, affection is tied to the promise. You said forever. You promised stability. You must stay. What once was a gift of love becomes an expectation of performance. This is why so many men report that intimacy fades after the wedding. The spark that was once free-flowing is replaced with an obligation to prove love through sacrifice. Hidden message: your love is no longer yours to give, it is mine to demand. 2. The dependency trap. Marriage often creates dependency, not always intentionally, but structurally. A man pours his resources, time, energy, finances into the marriage. Slowly, his independence shrinks. His routines are shaped around the relationship. His finances are merged. His freedom is negotiated. Over time, he forgets what life outside the marriage even looked like. The trap is not that he cannot leave physically, it's that he no longer knows who he is without the bond. Hidden message: your life is no longer your own, it is tied to mine. 3. Social leverage. Marriage is not private, it is public. Families, friends, culture, and even religion enforce it. Once married, a man doesn't just have a wife, he has an entire network of accountability. Every argument is magnified by the question, What will people think if you leave? The pressure keeps him in line, even when love is gone. This is why so many men stay in marriages that drain them. They are afraid not of the woman, but of the judgment of the crowd. Hidden message: you are not just married to me, you are married to everyone watching. 4. The withdrawal of intimacy. In many marriages, intimacy transforms into currency. Early passion fades, replaced by conditional affection. A woman may withhold closeness, not always consciously, as a way to reinforce control. Do what I want, and love returns. Resist, and I go cold. This subtle withdrawal can break a man down over years, leaving him chasing affection that is no longer freely given. Hidden message: love is no longer unconditional. It is a tool to control you. 5. The legal power shift. This is the most obvious, yet the least discussed. Marriage is not just emotional, it's legal. The law is not neutral. Divorce courts, custody battles, and financial settlements overwhelmingly expose men to devastating losses. In many countries, marriage is the only contract where you can lose half of everything you own simply by breaking it. And here's the irony. No one explains this at the altar. The music plays, the vows are spoken, but no one says out loud that love is now backed by the state. Hidden message: the law is on my side, not yours. Together, these 5 mechanisms create the hidden architecture of marriage. Commitment becomes control. Dependency drains freedom. Society enforces submission. Intimacy turns into leverage, and the law seals it all. This is why so many men feel blindsided. They thought they were stepping into a bond of love, but what they entered was a structure of power. And unless you recognize these mechanisms, you will never understand why marriage feels so different from dating, or why so many men regret the contract they signed. Knowledge without action is useless. Now that you understand the 5 hidden mechanisms of marriage, the real question is, how do you survive them? How do you protect your freedom, your identity, and your strength inside a system designed to turn love into leverage? The answer is not to run blindly from commitment or to live in fear of every relationship. The answer is awareness, discipline, and preparation. A man who sees the structure clearly cannot be trapped by it. 1. Surviving commitment as control rule. Never confuse obligation with love. When you hear the words, "You promised forever, you must do this," recognize the psychological trap. Love is not proven by submission. The correct response is calm firmness. I choose what I give freely, not because I'm pressured into it. The moment you cave to obligation, you lose respect. The man who survives does not reject commitment, but he defines it on his own terms. Don't argue endlessly trying to justify yourself. The more you explain, the more leverage obligation has over you. 2. Surviving the dependency trap rule. Maintain an independent core. Marriage should add to your life, not consume it. Keep your mission, your hobbies, your circle of friends, and your sense of identity outside of the relationship. Dependency only works on men who forget who they are without the marriage. The man who survives knows this. The more self-sufficient you remain, the less power dependency has over you. Never. Don't give up your independence piece by piece, thinking sacrifice equals love. Once you erase yourself, you have nothing left to offer. 3. Surviving social leverage rule. Never outsource your decisions to the crowd. When pressure builds, family expectations, cultural shame, religious guilt, you must remember that it is your life, not theirs. Most men stay trapped because they fear the opinions of others more than the reality of their situation. The survivor knows that silence is better than explanation. You don't owe your family, your community, or society your misery to maintain appearances. Don't let shame dictate your choices. A man who bends to the crowd becomes a prisoner of it. 4. Surviving the withdrawal of intimacy rule. Never chase what should be freely given. When love, affection, or intimacy are used as bargaining chips, recognize it as leverage, not devotion. The correct response is not begging, not performing tricks to earn affection. It is calm indifference. The man who survives understands that real intimacy is never conditional. If she withholds to control, he holds frame, he doesn't collapse. Never. Don't verbalize the manipulation. Don't say, "You're withholding because you want control." The moment you speak the code, the dynamic dies. Silence and composure are stronger than accusation. 5. Surviving the legal power shift rule. Prepare before you sign. This is the hardest pill to swallow. The legal system is not neutral, and pretending otherwise is suicide. The survivor does not enter blind. He researches, he prepares, he understands the risks. In some cases, he protects himself with agreements. In all cases, he recognizes that the law does not care about his feelings. The survivor treats marriage not as a fairy tale, but as the most serious contract he will ever enter. Never. Don't assume love will protect you from legal consequences. The law is colder than any heart. The formula of survival is not about paranoia. It's about clarity. Every mechanism of marriage, commitment, dependency, social pressure, intimacy, law, operates as a test. The man who survives applies one simple framework. See, name, respond. See, recognize the pattern immediately. Name. In your mind, label it for what it is. This is obligation. This is dependency. This is social pressure. Respond. Stay calm. Stay firm. Stay unshaken. This formula may sound simple, but it's the difference between a man who collapses under the weight of marriage and a man who stands unbroken inside it. Marriage, like every system of human psychology, is not the enemy. Blindness is the enemy. Men fail not because the contract exists, but because they never learn to read it. They confuse love with leverage, intimacy with obligation, and social pressure with truth. But once you see the architecture beneath the vows, you no longer live at the mercy of it. You live in mastery of it. Now you see it. Marriage isn't just romance. It isn't just two people in love, building a life together. It's a structure, a contract that rewires the balance of power. What looked like passion becomes obligation. What looked like choice becomes law. And what looked like freedom becomes leverage. Most men never realize this. They keep telling themselves, this is love. This is how it's supposed to be. But deep down, they feel it. The loss of freedom, the quiet resentment, the weight of expectations that were never spoken, yet now define every day of their lives. And by the time they ask, what happened? It's already too late. The contract has already done its work. But you're different now, because you've seen behind the curtain. You've pulled apart the fairy tale and studied the code beneath it. You know that marriage is not just about feelings. It's about systems. You understand that when love fades, the structure remains. And once you see that, you can no longer be controlled by it. Awareness is freedom. This doesn't mean you must reject marriage forever. It doesn't mean you can't love or connect or build. What it means is that you must step into it with eyes wide open. No illusions, no blind faith, no surrender of your identity, because the man who sees the hidden psychology cannot be enslaved by it. He chooses freely. He commits with clarity, and he refuses to be broken by a contract disguised as romance. Now ask yourself, how many men in your life, friends, co-workers, even family, are living inside this trap right now without even realizing it? How many are confused, drained, and controlled, but still smiling in photos, still playing the role of happy husband because society expects them to? That is the tragedy of blindness, and that is why this knowledge matters. But understand this, marriage is not the final layer of the code. It's only one piece of a much larger structure, Beyond marriage lie even deeper forces, social contracts, cultural scripts, invisible chains that bind men not with love, but with duty. That's the next layer, and once you see it, the game of modern relationships will never look the same again. So here's what you do now. Subscribe. Stay here. Because this is the only place where you'll learn to decode the secret psychology of women, to survive the traps, to resist the leverage, and to walk through the modern world as a man who cannot be shaken. You've unlocked another layer of the code today. The next one is darker. Don't miss it.